guys, so today what we're going to take a look at is fractions within an equation. So we want to look at how to solve when, let's say, we have something that looks like this. Let's say we have w minus 8 over 5 equals 12 over 5. So there's going to be nothing special about this one, even though, like, when I see fractions, and you'll hear me say it a lot when we're working together, is I don't like fractions. Fractions are usually difficult for me to deal with, so but for this one it's not too difficult, and you should think why that's the case. So why do you think this wouldn't be so difficult? Yeah, it might look difficult, but it isn't. So why do you think that might be? Well, it's because there's a 5 here and there's a 5 here. They have a common denominator. So if they have a common denominator, don't really have to do too much. I can really just solve this pretty straightforward. And I can easily go ahead and go through the process of doing the inverse operation and solving it. So you get 20 over 5. Now, that would just simplify to 4, right? So you see how easy that was, how straightforward that was? That was because there was a common denominator. I didn't have to find the LCD and do any conversions at all. However, what I'm going to show you next is a different technique on how we could tackle a similar problem to this. All right, so let's take a look at this one. We have 2x minus 1 equals 3/4 x plus 9. Now, there's only one fraction. All right, so there's only one fraction here, so you could technically convert this and bring this one over here, but anytime that I see a fraction, what I like to do is I like to remove it. But if I'm going to do that, what I'm first going to do is I'm going to group these two together. So to remove this 4 from the denominator, I would have to multiply everything by 4. So I would basically have to multiply in here and into here. Now whatever I do to one side, so to keep this equation balanced, I'm going to have to multiply this side by 4 as well. So I'm going to distribute and distribute. So I get 8x minus 4 equals, now this should be straightforward and easy in a way that we could solve this by cross simplifying, right? So if I cross simplify, the 4's will cancel out or divide out, and you get 3x. Because if you think about it, if I did this real quick over the side here, that's really just going to be 12 over 4, which is really just 3. So you don't have to do it out that way, though. I'd rather prefer you to use cross simplification. And if you're not sure about what that is, please ask or look up a video on that. And then I'm going to go ahead and go over here, and now I have this particular setup. So from here, now all I have to do is go ahead and solve this out. So I'm going to go ahead, I always bring my smaller variables to the other side. So inverse operation of addition is subtraction. And then now this is just a two-step. The inverse of subtraction is addition, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And I get 5x equals 40. And now all I have to do is just divide both sides by 5. Pretty straightforward. X equals 8. Now again, you should check that. If you plug that 8 back into any one of these problems, either to this one or to this one, you would see that the left side equals the right side, so it will check out. Just for time reasons, I'm not going to check that, but you can if you want to see if it will check out. So that's if you have one fraction. Now I'm going to show you the next example. The last example for these notes is if we have a bunch of fractions within an equation. All right, so if you take a look at this example, you notice that we have 3 different fractions. So what I want to look at is, first, let's look at the denominator. Do they have a common denominator? No, they don't. There's a lot of different things going on here. So what I would suggest, or the way to tackle this is, again, don't like fractions. So if we don't like fractions, let's get rid of them. Let's remove them. So what we need to figure out is we need to first figure out what is the LCD of every single fraction that is within this particular equation. So I look at 9, 3, and 2. Now, if you don't know how to find the least common denominator, look at a previous video, but I know the least common denominator of 9, 3, and 2 is going to be 18. Okay? So now, once I know that, the next step is I'm going to group these guys together, and all we have to do is multiply basically the whole problem by 18. So I'm going to multiply this side by 18, and I'm going to multiply this side by 18. So And you should see what happens when I do that is use cross simplification again. I think that's super important when you do these, so you don't have to necessarily, if you don't have a calculator, you don't have to do crazy multiplication out. So if I know that 18 divided by 9 is 2, so this would be 2x. 18 divided by 3 is 6, but then I have times 4, so 6 times 4 is 24. So right there, in our heads, we just basically took this crazy looking expression and wrote it like this. Now the reason we can do that is because we're doing it to both sides. We can only do this if it is an equation, so I can't state that enough. Don't think if you just have an expression you can do what I just did. You cannot do that. It has to be an equation because you're keeping it balanced. So with that being said, let's move over to here. 18 divided by 2 is just going to be 9, and then 18 times negative 1 is negative 18. So you should now see you have a more simpler equation than this fraction. Again, I don't like fractions, so that's why I'm doing this. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and solve this out. So did that pretty quick, but you should see that once you do out all your math, x equals 6, you could take that 6 and plug it back into either side, and you would see that the left side would equal the right side, so it satisfied that equation. So if you hear me say satisfies an equation, that's what I'm talking about. The left side equals the right side, or the right side equals the left side. But that's how you deal with fractions. That's how I would suggest for you guys to deal with these fractions, is to basically just get rid of them. Okay, so good luck with this. If you have any questions, make sure that you ask, and keep up the good work.